Welcome, curious minds, to a deep dive that's going to challenge some of your most fundamental assumptions about reality. We're asking a pretty big question today. What if everything you perceive, the sights, the sounds, even your thoughts and feelings, what if it's all in a constant state of flux, always changing?
It sounds simple on the surface, doesn't it?
Mm,
But as we dig in, you'll see how systematically these ancient texts apply this idea
mm,
to pretty much every single part of our experience. It really reframes how we might think about stability.
exactly. So our topic is impermanence. We're drawing from this really fascinating set of texts. One, Cakkhuvaggo, which translates to something like the chapter on perceptions or maybe the I section. And these aren't just like abstract ideas, they're foundational texts, very
Yeah.
specific, very detailed.
And our mission today really is to unpack what these texts mean when they say things are impermanent.
Mm.
We want to show how it applies to your everyday life, using examples straight from the source text, and then hopefully help you grasp the profound implications of really getting this truth for your own path.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The core idea, the thread running through all these texts, is this concept: impermanent, subject to change, becoming otherwise. In the original Pali, that's anicca viparinami aññānatabhavi. And it's presented not just as a philosophy, but as a basic characteristic of existence itself.
Right. And what's really striking is the method. They don't just say everything changes and leaves at that. They systematically peel back the layers of our experience. They show how this truth applies at every single level, from the most immediate, like seeing, to the really deep stuff.
Okay, let's unpack that step by step. Where do they start? With our senses, right? The very tools we use to perceive anything. The texts say the eye, the ear, the nose, tongue, body, and even the mind. They're all anicca viparinami aññānatabhavi. So, hang on. It's not just what I see, but my actual eyesight that's always changing. That's quite a starting point.
Precisely. If the instruments themselves are constantly changing, then what they perceive must also be, unstable in a sense. So the texts move right on to the objects of the senses: forms, sounds, smells, tastes, physical sensations, and even mental objects like thoughts or ideas, all described in exactly the same way: impermanent, subject to change, becoming otherwise. What's fascinating here is it's not just that the physical things around us change, but their very appearance to us, their nature as sense objects, is in constant flux. Think about a melody, right? It exists only as it unfolds and fades.
Or taste. It's there, then it's gone. Okay, so senses change. What they perceive changes. It goes deeper.
Oh, yes. Inward to the internal processing. Our consciousness, eye consciousness, the awareness of seeing, ear consciousness, awareness of hearing, and so on for all six senses, including mind consciousness, the awareness of thoughts. All of these are also declared to be impermanent, constantly shifting. It suggests our awareness isn't some fixed thing, but more like a dynamic process, always arising and ceasing.
Right, like a flickering flame rather than a steady light bulb. And then there's contact. What's that about?
Contact, or phassa, is that crucial moment of meeting. When a sense organ, like the eye, meets an object, like a color, and consciousness arises. That specific moment of connection. Contact through the eye, the ear, the nose, tongue, body, mind. All these instances of contact are described as fleeting. They happen, they exist for a moment, then they're gone. Every single interaction you have with the world is basically a stream of these momentary contacts.
Wow. Okay, so from that contact, feelings arise. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral.
Exactly. And the texts are very clear here, too. Feelings born of eye contact, ear contact, and so on. All impermanent. Anicca viparinami aññānatabhavi. That really good feeling you might have. Enjoy it, but know it's changing. That uncomfortable feeling. Recognize it, too. Will pass.
So it's not about being pessimistic, like nothing good lasts. It's
Yeah.
more realistic. Don't cling so tightly.
Precisely. It fosters a kind of resilience, maybe. An appreciation for the good while it's here, and less despair about the bad because you see its transient nature. It can really shift your relationship with your own emotions.
Okay. What comes after feelings in this breakdown?
Perceptions, sanya. This is how we recognize or label things. Identifying blue, loud, sour, chair, that thought I had yesterday. Perceptions of forms, sounds, odors, tastes, tactile things, mental phenomena, also impermanent. Our interpretation isn't fixed.
Like how you might perceive a person one way, and then later, with more information, your perception completely changes.
Exactly like that. Our understanding evolves. It's fluid.
And then elisions, intentions, our will, satana.
Volitions, our intentions concerning forms, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, thoughts, also impermanent. They arise dependent on conditions, and conditions are always changing.
And that connects to cravings, Tana, I guess.
Yes. Cravings for forms, sounds, odors, tastes, tactile sensations, mental phenomena. These desires themselves are not static entities. They arise, they feel intense maybe, but they too are part of this flow. They aren't a fixed part of who you are.
So our senses, what we sense, our awareness, contact, feelings, perceptions, intentions, cravings, it's a pretty thorough list of our subjective experience.
Extremely thorough. But then it zooms out even further to the fundamental elements, the dhatu. Earth elements, solidity, water, cohesion, fire, temperature, wind, motion, space, and even consciousness as an element itself. All are described as, you guessed it,
Impermanent, subject to change, becoming otherwise.
exactly. So even the supposed building blocks of reality are seen as dynamic processes, not static things.
And finally, they bring it right back to us, to the self.
Right back home. To the aggregates, the khandhas, the components we usually identify as me or mine. Form, our body. Feeling, perception, mental formations, which includes volitions and other mental habits, and consciousness. All five are declared anakiviparinami and yathabhavi. Impermanent, subject to change, becoming otherwise.
Wow, okay. So if you put all that together,
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these aggregates are the very building blocks of what we experience as ourselves and our world. To say they are all, without exception, impermanent, that's a really profound statement. It fundamentally challenges our tendency to look for something solid, permanent, some unchanging me within this constant flow. It's not saying nothing exists, but that existence is dynamic, not static.
okay, so the texts lay out this pervasive impermanence, but they don't just leave it there, right? They talk about how understanding this actually changes things.
Absolutely. That's crucial. It's not just an intellectual exercise. They describe a path, stages of realization, based on how deeply one engages with this truth.
What's the first stage?
It's called the faith follower, the saddhānusārī. This is someone who hears these teachings about impermanence, maybe reflects on them, and develops trust and belief. They believe and trust that, yes, the senses are impermanent, feelings are impermanent, and so on.
Just based on faith or trust in the teaching?
Initially, yes, but the results described are quite significant. They're said to be entered upon the fixed course of rightness, onto the stage of the noble ones, having overcome the stage of the ordinary person. And there's this really striking part. They become incapable of performing any deed that would lead to rebirth in hell, the animal realm, or the sphere of ghosts.
Which, maybe in modern terms, means they become incapable of actions that cause really deep harm or suffering for themselves or others, because that belief starts to genuinely change their perspective and actions.
That's a very reasonable interpretation, yeah. It implies a fundamental shift in ethical grounding. And they're also said to be incapable of passing away before realizing the fruit of stream entry, meaning their progress is now assured, they won't fall back completely.
Okay, so belief is powerful. Is there a next step beyond belief?
Yes, the Dharma follower, the dhammānusāri. This person goes beyond just belief. They understand these truths to some extent by wisdom or by discernment. There's an intellectual grasp, maybe some initial insight based on their own observation and reflection. It's not just taking on faith anymore, they're starting to see it for themselves, even if just conceptually or partially.
And the benefits.
Interestingly, the texts often list the same benefits as the faith follower, same destiny, same protections. The key difference seems to be the mode of engagement faith versus this budding wisdom or discernment.
Got it. And then the final stage mentioned in these specific texts.
That's the stream enter, the sotāpanno.
Yeah.
This is someone who doesn't just believe, doesn't just understand intellectually, but thus knows, thus sees these truths directly, fully, experientially.
Here's where it gets really interesting, right? The deep implication of truly seeing this truth of impermanence, not just thinking about it.
Exactly. It's like a complete shift in perspective. For the sotāpanno, the impermanence of the senses, feelings, thoughts, self, it's not a theory anymore. It's lived reality, moment by moment.
So what does that feel like, do you think? That knowing and seeing, how is it different from just, agreeing that things change?
Well, the text suggests it brings a profound release. If you directly perceive that everything is constantly changing, that clinging, that desperate grasping onto things or pushing them away starts to naturally fall away. You see, it's futile, like trying to hold on to running water. There's a sense of unshakable peace, not because life becomes perfect, but because the inner reaction to life's ups and downs changes fundamentally.
And the ultimate benefits described for the stream enterer.
They are profound. Destined for non-falling, they won't regress from this state. Fixed on the path, and ultimately bound for full enlightenment. It signifies an irreversible breakthrough, a guaranteed trajectory towards complete liberation from suffering.
It really raises that question. What is the difference between believing something, maybe even understanding it intellectually, and truly knowing or seeing it deep down? And what does that mean for you, the listener?
It points towards the transformative potential of direct experience beyond just concepts.
So let's recap. We've taken a pretty deep dive today into these ancient texts, looking at how they systematically reveal the impermanent nature of, well, pretty much everything. Our senses, what we perceive, our consciousness, feelings, thoughts, intentions, cravings.
Right, even the fundamental elements, the building blocks of reality, and the very components of what we call self, all shown to be anik viparinami anyatavavi.
So the final thought to leave you with, if everything you experience, everything you interact with, even what you identify as you, is fundamentally impermanent, subject to change, becoming otherwise.
Then what truly is stable? What can you actually rely on in this constant flux?
And maybe more importantly, what might it mean for your life, for your goals, your understanding of everything? To deeply know this, not just believe it, but truly see it, that all things are transient. That change isn't just occasional, it's the very nature of things, something to definitely ponder until our next deep dive.